When I researched Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, one interesting thing that I found out was that they look at life, business, and investing from the perspective of probabilities. And what does that mean? That means that they want to make their bets. They want to make decisions which has the highest possibility of having a great outcome. They only choose to play the game and make a bet if the upside is much greater than the downside. For example, they never make an investment in an area or in a business that they don't understand. They want to know it much better than everyone else and have some kind of understanding that put them in a better position than other investors. That's when they make their bet, and that's when they collect loads of money. Then I asked myself, how can me as a regular person, how can we use this concept in our own life and have better outcomes, better relationships, better life quality, better return on our investments, better business? How do we apply this concept for ourselves? Are there ways where we can lower the downside and increase the possible upside in a bet that we do? The first answer that came up was investing in the stock market. And that could be a low cost index fund, for example. For the last 100 years, the S&P 500, the American stock market, has returned about 7 to 10% per year. So for the long term, there's a quite high chance of the stock market giving you a return. In the next 1 or 2 to 3 years, it might go down. But if you have a longer perspective, the chances are that it will give you a decent return. The second answer I came up with was having low personal expenses. Because that is something that lowers your risk, because you simply have a higher surplus each month, which you could use to invest in your business or, for example, in the stock market or in your own training to become better at what you do. So that's a very simple thing that you can do, which only requires discipline, but it lowers your risk and increases your possible return. So the third answer I came up with was using your personal traits as a leverage. And what does that mean? Basically, that means that you have some quirks or some traits in your personality that in certain situations would give you an awesome advantage over other people. And in other situations, they might be flaws and make you less effective with other people. But if you put yourself in situations and in work projects where you can use them as an advantage, that can really give you a great advantage because you don't need to work so hard because these traits work hard for you. So let me give you an example. I have extremely sensitive hearing, which gives me an edge in any circumstance when it comes to music. So I've used that a lot when coaching other singers, for example, because I can hear exactly what is going on with their voice, what we need to change, what we need to do. So that is something that I've used. I've also used that in music production because it gives me an edge in hearing more details and nuances. So that are areas that I've naturally been drawn to and that I've worked in and started my career in. Another trait that I have, I'm not sure if I've been born with this or if I've trained this trait, but when I see something or someone, I naturally see both them or the thing and what that can become in the future. I see the potential of that person or that thing, what this project could become. So naturally, when I have a customer, a client, I can see what skills we could develop and I can make a plan how we can do that and help them to draw that out and develop those traits. And when I've worked in different projects, that has helped me enormously because I can visualize how the end result will be of the project, and then I naturally have a compass that leads me towards that goal. Another trait is my deep focus, and that is something that I've used both in projects, in business and investing, and that is that I can start researching an area, for example, and learn everything there is to know about that area and shut everything out. And then I can naturally use that in projects and have a great understanding of that area. And the fourth quality is discipline. And I'm not sure if that is something that I've been born with or if it's something that I've learned. Naturally, as a musician, that is something that you learn because when you've learned an instrument, you also have developed the trait of discipline, which you then can put to work in other areas. And for you, you might have totally other traits than me. So you should probably do totally other things. But the key here is to find which traits you have, understanding that other people don't have the same traits, because you probably think that everyone has these traits, or that the things that are easy for you are also easy for other people. But believe me, they are very specific to you. So if you take those traits that you have identified, if you can use them in your work, like design your life around those traits, design your work around those traits so that you can use them on a daily basis as your main way of delivering work and value to society, you will have a leverage over other people. Your probabilities of success in those areas have increased. So another thing we can look at is if your family is in one line of work, or if you have a family business, for example. So for example, if your family is into gardening or woodwork, for example, then you will probably see other opportunities that normal people who don't have that expertise will see. So that will also give you an edge. The probabilities are in your favor. So you should probably consider entering that line of work as well, or that business or investments within that field, because you will see opportunities that other people cannot see. You will also see what not to do. You will see flaws and mistakes that can save you 10 or 20 years, that another people who would be a beginner in that field, they would make those mistakes. They would not see the opportunities that you can see. The last answer that I came up with was to always educate yourself. That is really one way how you can reduce risk and increase the possible upside. Because if you can read about great people in history, if you can learn about Sam Walton, who built Walmart, for example, how that family made investments, how they built one of the largest companies in the world, how that family never sold stock, they just kept that investment, they never diversified, and that family is one of the wealthiest in the world, for example. You can read about how Conrad Hilton, for example, how his business almost went bankrupt, how he almost lost all his hotels in the Great Depression, but how he managed to make one hotel survive by just convincing his vendors that he would reward them greatly if they just bear with him, if they would not force him to pay or force his business into bankruptcy. So when he greatly repaid them afterwards. You can read about Winston Churchill, how amidst all his personal quirks, his depression, his alcoholism, how he managed to be the person that made sure to beat Hitler in World War II, for example. How his conviction, how his dedication to do that, how he managed to overcome his own personal difficulties and made sure to achieve that goal. You know, when you read books like that, you will really get courage, you will get inspiration, you will see what other people have done that will greatly help you in your own decisions, because you get a mental framework for how you can make decisions, what is possible to do. And finally, when you line up these building blocks, these pieces of the puzzle, you can greatly reduce risk and increase the possible reward. And you can greatly reduce stress in life when you start working with your own personal traits, where you can use them as leverage, for example. When you start to building your net worth, when you start to play the game of probabilities. Just like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who had an awesome life and they built amazing investments and affected thousands, if not millions of people at the same time in a positive way. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next week.